So it's the year 2025, and let's be completely honest, there's only one thing that really matters in this year, right, going into the next year, and that's obviously the Ashes, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean, England started preparing for this Ashes series, didn't they, in about 2023, so we're getting closer to it. So a nice, broad, generic question to throw you away, Bumble. Can England win the Ashes this winter?
Yes, they can, and I think it'll come down, as it always does, to attacks. They've got a very tasty attack. Are they getting slightly older? Are they all going to be fit and firing? Who's the backup? We've seen Boland come back into the team, and he's a wonderful bowler. And then you look at England's attack, which I think will be tasty as well, and they're looking for out-and-out tall pace. Just not sure about England's spin option. But then just reading and watching what's happened against India, do you need a spinner? That will all come down to the pitches that are prepared, what sort of pitches. I sort of watched and read all that, and I thought, hang on, you don't even know what pitches are going to be prepared, because I'm a big believer in home advantage. If you're playing at home, let's have a bit of help for us. So to answer your question, I think England have a real chance of winning, but they'll have to be on top of the game. We can expand the conversation, because Australia, as always, will be looking for the weakest link. Where's your weakest link? And we're going to play on that. And they do it very, very successfully, and have done for years.
Jarrod, it looks pretty obvious what England are trying to do with the pace attack. They're trying to get a bunch of 5-6 guys that can go to Australia and bowl 90 miles an hour. Is that right? When you're a travelling team going to Australia, is it sometimes as simple as just trying to get a bunch of guys that can bowl over 90 miles an hour?
In the old days, and that's not what the current wickets are doing, right? Scott Boland doesn't do those things. So I think in the old days, who did they bring out? Boyd Rankin. So, they went in with Chris Strumlett, Boyd Rankin, those sorts of guys. I'm not sure that is the kind of wickets we see anymore. India didn't have particularly taller bowlers. Jasprit Bumrah's not very tall. He doesn't have a high action. He skids it through, and he was very successful. The wickets at the moment are probably the closest to, I wouldn't say they're English-style wickets, but they're closest to English-style wickets that England have probably ever had when coming to Australia since the 1930s. And they're probably more like South African wickets now at the moment. So I'd be looking at what works in South Africa as much as I would be looking at what works in Australia. That's my issue. I think they're going with, we need a bunch of guys who bowl 90 miles an hour who are big and strong. And actually, this might be the one time we're bringing over a couple of really skillful bowlers. Would be very, very handy in this situation.
They'll have to be tall. I think what works in Australia, you've got to have some height. Yeah. And whether you're McGrath, who wasn't express but deadly accurate, that type of bowler, but you wait to see what pitches, how much grass is left on them. The interesting thing is, do England have a potent spinner? I think that, in my opinion, I think Leach is the best bowler, but he's a tiny little guy, bowling accurate left-arm spin. But they're going to go with Bashir. But I'm just reading that against India particularly, do you actually need a spinner? Could Joe Root not fill in, they call it a fill-in bowler, and use your other quick bowlers? You're going to need 2 quicks, but 2 skillful bowlers as well, who can dry the game up.
And who would they be, by the way, now? Are we looking at Wokes, Potts? I mean, Sam Cook's always someone that gets lots of mentions.
I mean, Chris Wokes will be, 36? Talk about Jimmy Anderson, Chris Wokes. Chris Wokes would be in the minds, but a younger version of Chris Wokes is Potts, and a little bit quicker and accurate enough. A bolter, if you want a bolter...
I do like a bolter.
I love a Bumble bolter.
Mick Stanley. Okay. So they took Stanley on the Lions. He's had that many injuries. He bowls rockets, this guy, if they can keep him fit. And so Josh Tong would come into it. They want their options to be a battery of quick bowlers, but they'll need a couple of skillful bowlers. Now, Sam Cook is a skillful bowler he's just overlooked all the time. A lad from the north who I like, he's a skillful bowler. He's Code, Ben Code at Yorkshire. Skillful, roundabout, stays fit. So they'll have to get a blend.
Yeah.
They need a blend of bowlers.
I think that's the most important thing, is that they can't... The height, he's right, but we have seen, Jai Richardson is not a particularly tall bowler, Jasprit Bumrah. The wickets are doing so much at the moment. You don't want to over-index on just getting everyone at 6'5", and you don't want to be like the old days where everyone has to be quite fast, because Scott Boland bowls at about 136, 137 kilometres an hour, and no one can hit him on those wickets, right? So I think they have to adapt to the fact that Australia is changing. So the SCG wicket was probably that was the flattest wicket in Australia, and they've just tried to change it. Obviously, they got it horribly wrong. But now that is getting a lot of wickets. Even in Shield cricket, people are getting wickets. Just bowl at the top of off stump with skillful bowlers, have a couple of them that are a little bit taller, and have 1 or 2 fast bowlers available to you. That would be a much better thing than just putting 6 Bryden casters in.
The spin option is a real interest to me because they've...
You don't have a Bashir, are you, Bumble?
No, they've thrown all their eggs into Bashir's basket all the time. It's Bashir and Bashir. So
Bumble's bolters and Bashir's baskets.
Yeah, so I would look again. I'm looking at one Archie Vaughan, who opens the batting and bowls spin. De Carey's bats is a better batter than
Are
number 8.
Are you going to pick anyone that isn't related to a former commentator?
but they've got what it
Rocky
takes.
Flynn's can he have a go?
Rocky will come in.
Can he go at 6 or, you know?
Can I carry on?
Yeah.
They've got what it takes, and they may just come in. Now, what do they give you? What do them 2 that I've mentioned give you? They give you a longer batting lineup.
Yeah, so I think Bethel is probably another one that they would look to bowl a little bit. The issue in Australia is that if you're a spinner, it's really hard. And it's always been hard. It's
Finger
hard.
spin.
Yeah.
Leg spin.
Certainly finger spin. But it's hard. It's hard to find out when you're going to bowl them. Australia just beat India without bowling Nathan Lyon at all. India had 2 spinners and they couldn't bowl one of them for half that time.
Yeah.
And then when you bowl, you have to be really accurate, right?
Rian Ahmed, leg spin.
I don't think he's accurate enough.
He might be in 12 months' time. He's progressing as a young cricketer. It's the hardest skill to bowl leg spin. He's a young cricketer. He's got so much enthusiasm about the game, and he bats. So they'll always be looking.
Liam Dawson just out of the equation, do you think?
Well,
like
I mean, what a fabulous cricketer.
It's
They
where you
obviously
fit him
don't.
in, isn't it?
You see, I'm a Dawson fan. I think he's a nuggety cricketer, a gritty cricketer. He'll get stuck in, he'll get you tough runs, he fields terrifically well, and he bowls quick left-arm spin. Jack Leach is a good bowler, but Jack he's not going to hurt you with the bat.
So I think if you go
I know he's there to bowl, but...
Yeah. I think if you go over now, you take one specialist spinner with you, which is going to be Bashir. I think Bashir will get hit everywhere because I don't think he's accurate enough for Australian wickets. But you probably then need the Washington Sundar, Ravi Jadeja spinner, right? Like you do. I'm not saying
would Ravi Jadeja like to come
I
and
was
play
about to
for
say,
us?
I'm not sure England quite has that
he got a
quality.
son that can come and just bowl for England?
I'm not sure they quite have that quality, but you want someone who is more of an all-rounder who you can fit in. So Bethel probably comes into that. I'm not sure Bethel will bowl
Is he
that
a good
much.
enough spinner, though, to even be a sort of a part-time spinner in a test match in Australia?
I don't think England have a bowler who is a good enough spinner to bowl in Australia.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's where you're starting this conversation.
So I've given a load of options there. There's a load of options who might just come through. And they've plucked Bashir out of nowhere, and they might just do that they took Archie Vaughan, who's captain in the under-19s, didn't you take him on the Lions? And they took De Carey's previously, not this time. So they do have options. Rian Ahmed seems to go on every senior tour.
What's Rian Ahmed's? Is it his brother?
His brother.
His brother's
good young cricketer.
He might be the best spinner in the country.
Another cricketer who I like Dawson, is Bess. I think Bess is a good cricketer.
Again, I don't know if he's accurate enough.
He's certainly improved from when he played for England. I'll put it that way.
He's probably a better cricketer now than he was.
He's a better cricketer now than he was when he played for England.
We know that Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood and Boland are very good at bowling. Good insight from me there. Who's scoring runs for England in Australia?
Well,
because even Joe Root, some people use that as a
Root's
stick
a
to beat him
given.
with.
Root's a given. Brook will be fine.
You say Root's a given.
Yeah.
So you don't have any issue with the fact he's never really made runs in Australia before?
He'll get.
Never scored 100 in Australia.
So I'm not too worried about it either because I don't think that holds up as much as people think. Like, as in, there's nothing within his technique that tells me he can't make runs in Australia. He's a back foot player to begin with.
There you go.
Now, having said that, no one's making runs in Australia at the moment. So it's very possible he only averages 35. Jaiswal averaged 42 or something, and I was like, that's a great series. I put that up on the mantelpiece, you know.
But I mean, Duckett's doing terrifically well, but, both teams are looking for an opener.
Yeah. I think also my worry with Duckett is he bats with a bit of an angled bat face, and in Australia, and he doesn't leave. And in Australia, they just
In Australia, you've got to play square.
Yeah.
Don't try and play like that. You've got to play square.
So-
I think Duckett will be all right.
Well, yeah, I remember him struggling in ODIs in South Africa
Yeah.
when they were angling it across him. That might be an issue, but he at least is informed.
He's bedded in, hasn't he, to Test match cricket. He's bedded in. He knows a little bit more about it.
I think he's a better cricketer now than when he first played. I
There
think
you
that's
go.
fair.
Who's we got about 3? Bethel.
So you got rid of Crawley?
I haven't got rid of Crawley. I'd just like Crawley to be a little bit more respectful of what opening batting is. You know, you've got a fresh pitch, a fresh bowler, a brand new ball. You just got to work your way through it. You've got to build your innings.
But from that team that last played a Test match in New Zealand,
Yeah.
Jamie Smith is definitely going to come back in, right? So one person's going to have to miss out. Would that be Pope then for you? Well, Smith's going to. I'm not sure about the order,
Yeah.
but we know from they say they picked the best 7 batsmen.
Well, hang on. They won't.
We know Smith comes back in, don't we?
So there would be a move, maybe for Pope to keep wicket, because we like that. A bloke who doesn't keep wicket, have him keeping wicket.
Very Bazball.
But yeah, great Bazball. and so you could have Smith as a batter.
Yeah.
And Pope, and so you're lengthening what they will want to do. They will talk about. I've done it in Australia. Get it as long a batting lineup as you can get with a balanced attack. And so that always includes the wicketkeeper. Your wicketkeeper is your all-rounder. Now, if you've got 2, Pope and Smith, but if there's a casualty, yes, in my opinion, it'd be Pope.
So you'd take Pope out before Bethel.
Yeah, I would, yeah. I think this lad, Pope, has played 50-odd
Over
Test
50
matches and averages 33.
Where are you at with this?
Yeah, I've never
Who drops out for Smith?
I've never been sold on Pope, but Bethel at number 3 in Australia is probably not going to make any runs.
Would Smith bat 3?
If Smith, I don't think England have a number 3, right? That's why Bethel and Pope have been doing it.
Since Jonathan Trott, probably.
Yeah. England has a weird history of not having too many great number 3s, but I'm not going to
So he's one of them that, number 3, ooh.
Yeah.
But Joe Root, going back at 3, no thanks.
Yeah. So, I think that's the issue. But Smith is probably a stronger bat, I would have thought. But if my issue with Crawley is that he likes to drive on the up, and the Australian bowlers are just going to bowl half a yard shorter.
Just be more respectful of what he needs.
And he's going to nick off over and over again.
Like he can play. He can play. His stats are just, they don't tell you about the player. He's got a double 100. And I've seen him play unbelievably well, but then you tear your hair out. No, what are you doing? So build your innings, build it.
So based on everything we've seen, like England shouldn't make many runs in Australia because no one's making any runs in Australia. Then it becomes more of a shootout of the bowling attacks. And if it becomes a shootout of the bowling attacks, Australia just has the better bowling attack if everyone stays fit. And they're not. Like Cummins has got injury problems at the moment. Hazelwood's just had injury. Mitch Starc looked like he was finished by the end. He was clutching more parts of his body than I even knew he had. Right?
And it's a year on.
Yeah, Scott Boland has just come back from an injury. Jai Richardson is the best bowler out of that. And Jai Richardson could be the next great Australian bowler. He dislocated his shoulder, Sam, doing a high 5. We should have put that on the funniest cricket moments, by the way. He dislocated his shoulder doing a high 5.
How is that possible?
I'll do it to you later. But the point being is that they do have a lot of options, but they're not all fully fit. Michael Neser was injured again this year. Like a lot of the guys that they like. You only need a couple of injuries, and suddenly this is a weird shootout, and then Joe Root averages 40 in that series, and you're back in the game a little bit, right? But I think Australia's just a better side, but Usman Khawaja may not be...
38?
He's not making a lot of runs at the moment. He said he got boomer'd. He didn't make any runs for about 6 months before boomer as well. Marnus has just found form again, but after a really bad dip. England like bowling to Marnus, I think, at the moment. I think they'll be pretty confident with that. Steve Smith made the 200s. He's older as well, right? There's some issues.
All-rounders a bit up in the air at the moment, maybe?
Well, the all-rounder is the one position that they have like multiple options.
Webster Green.
They have Webster, they have Green, Mitch Marsh has probably
Marsh.
moved on. Aaron Hardy is a really good player as well. They've got loads of options, but they can kind of only fit one of them in the side.
Yeah, exactly.
Alex Carey found some form, now has lost form again. It's not like Australia is like really a robust side at the moment. So England has a good chance, but you would say, all things considered, Australia looks better, and if you look better and you're the home side, you should win. But it could be a weird shootout.
They've got to have the A game. England have to have. They're away. I said I like home advantage. This is the pitch that we're going to play on, and reading about what's being said about the India, forget that. We don't know what pitches they're going to play on, how much grass is going to be left on, put a bit of moisture in, get home advantage. Do you want to bring the world-class spinner who's been a passenger, do we want to bring him into the game?
Have you guys read in the papers, by the way, there's already been a little bit of Ash's needle. I think an England journalist made a comment about Constas, and then everybody in Australia just exploded. Having a go at the English media. The needle bumble, it started already, which we love, don't we? Come on.
It's so predictable that, when you go over, you're going to get it from every angle. Do you get it as a commentator
when you go over and you used to work on TV? Would you get a little bit of stick from fans when you're walking up to the commentary position?
I never. I never, because they probably didn't know who I was.
Everyone knows who you are, Bumble.
But it's in the press and the media.
Oh, it's great.
It's the razzmatazz. It's what you expect. It's what's going to happen.
He's the worst. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
He was doing the Big Bash commentary one year, and I was at a country pub, and the guys behind me were like, "Oh, that Bumble, I hate that Bumble." And they were going on about it. But then they went through and they listed all the great things about it. So they started off by going,
terrible.
Don't know about this guy. I don't know why they brought him over. And then he's pretty funny though.
Yeah.
Well, he knows a lot about cricket. Oh, geez, he's good to listen to. And I was like, I think that's the best respect you get in Australia.
I think I've been in that pub.
Yeah. They instantly don't like you, but then they do like you.
Yeah.
And I think,
It's a bit like you, isn't it? It's like you with me. You sort of didn't like me at first, and then you kind of
we're still in that zone.
Have
we moved on?
You warm up. Maybe it's just an Australian thing, right?
Yeah, no, I still don't like you.
Okay, all right, good stuff.
Well, I mean, the great line, of course, is Henry Blofeld again. Dear Henry, my dear old thing, going through passport control, when the immigration guy said, "G'day, Mr. Blofeld, have you got a criminal record?" He said, "I didn't know it was compulsory."